Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Beyond Day One. If you look at some of the statistics and some of the things that are out there right now, they would tell you that in some workspaces, there's a generational divide that exists. You know what I mean? The baby boomers, the millennials, the Gen Z, and even Gen Alpha is coming into the workplace. And everybody has to work together and get along in order to achieve the goals that exist. Yet we're also quite divided in the workplace, and we find a way to silo and find ourselves into our own self created boxes. Well, we need to stop doing that because there's greater things on the line, and we're going to talk about those next. I've got with me today some help to do so. As normal, I've got with me Ryan Holdeman and the one and only Phillip Rich. Guys, welcome to this episode of the show. We talked all a little bit today, and it's no secret. It seems that, at least when I'm looking at some of the statistics, because we do a lot of work with Gen Z and with the younger generation to help them to take the next step in their careers. And one of the things that we see is that there's this constant push pull when it comes to generational relationships. Now, one of the things that I want to make very clear is if we really think about it and look at it, this is not new to the workplace. It feels new because new people are experiencing it. But I remember I'm a Gen Xer, and I remember when I was coming into the workplace, there were the boomers, there was the greatest generation before that. And, there was this whole, tension around, we were considered the lazy ones, just like Gen Z is considered the lazy ones now, and then the boomers were always just working and driving and they made things happen. And, you have all of these kind of labels, and some of them are stereotypes that are well earned. But we've got to, in order to be a successful organization, figure out how we're going to work beyond those generational differences. And you know what? Those differences can exist not only in technology, which I think we're all feeling today, but they exist in experience, even perspective. And so we've got to talk about that today and talk about how do we bring a team with so many varied perspectives back together in order to accomplish one goal. Philip, what's your thinking as you think about this whole concept of the generational divide that sometimes exists in the workplace?
It's interesting because when you talk about like coworkers that may come from a different generation than you, or just any type of thing like that, where there seems to be some type of a age gap or generation gap, one of the things that we can do, and I think sometimes it's kind of an unconscious thing, we begin to become territorial or defend our generation, like,
Yes.
or even prefer our generation, thinking that well, we're the real ones out there. Everybody else is whatever. But I think that you already automatically lose if you come at it with an idea that nobody else can teach you anything. Nothing. Nobody can share anything of value to you that's not from your generation or your same age bracket or whatever the case is. But if you instead come at it from a perspective of everyone has something to contribute and everyone has something I can learn from. There's valuable life experiences that people have had, areas of expertise that maybe you're not strong in, that if you just open yourself up and say, okay, yes, there may be, we may differ in like the slang we use or the understanding of modern technology, whatever the case is. But if you come to the table and say, you know what, I can learn something from this person, whoever they are, I can learn something from them. I think that'll automatically get you off on the right foot instead of, coming at it with more of the territorial mindset.
How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think the reason why we silo ourselves off or become tribal is because it's a matter of comfortability. I'm comfortable with people that I understand. Even if I disagree with them, I can understand where they're coming from because we're the same age. We grew up kind of with the same technology. We grew up with the same TV shows, and the same kind of culture. So I can understand. But if you're not careful, you can section yourself off because it's uncomfortable to talk to somebody older or younger than you. But I think what you can find out is if you can overcome the barrier of the uncomfortability and learn, for lack of a better analogy, a different language or another language, the language of one of the other generations, you might open yourself up to open doors. You might open yourself up to learning something new, and new experiences, and ultimately a richer life, not just in your career, but all in all.
Yeah. I think you're right, Ryan, because it's really the ultimate goal should be, I think I used the example earlier today, is that, there's nothing wrong with being born in the same hometown, right? There are people that I know who were born in one place, and that's where they literally have lived their entire lives. They may have taken a vacation to, Disney World and come back, but they've lived, and their life experience and their worldview is based upon their hometown where they were raised. Whereas there were others of us, like myself, my dad was in the military, so that means I traveled a good little bit. So I traveled and lived in different states. I traveled and lived overseas in Germany for several years, and that caused me to be able to see other parts of the world that I would not have maybe normally have gotten to see. Then I've come back and done the kind of work that's allowed me to travel to most of the states in the union. I've got about 20 left and I got to go. And all of that kind of, it can impact and changes your worldview. The same is true when it comes to people. When you have people who are not only older than you, but maybe from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, they have different experience and knowledge than you, to not go and visit and take the opportunity to spend time and get to know people is to potentially miss out on opportunities to expand your worldview at work. And they allow you to open those relationships can allow you to open the door into new things that you would not have ever experienced before. For example, I know for me that I had a boss, and she had to at the time be about 20, maybe 30 years older than I was at the time. So not only was she my boss and would instruct us on what to do, but she was also a great storyteller. And she would tell us stories about how it was when she started working and doing this, and how she approached doing this thing, and when she worked with this guy and this happened. And she used that storytelling as a means to help us to consider and think of different ways to approach and do things. And that was beneficial for us. I honestly think that some of this siloing and isolation stuff, you guys, I honestly think it comes back to school. And I think it lives because of our school days. We were all isolated into the same age groups, into the same classrooms, that if you lived in the same place long enough, you pretty much walk through elementary school all the way to graduating with the same people around you. And those were the cliques. And then when you were a little deeper in school, there was the sports clique, there were the nerd clique, there were the this group, the debater clique, there were these people, there were the drama kids, and there were all these cliques that everybody siloed off to just a little bit more. And I think that we've learned through school how to put ourselves in boxes, but we haven't unlearned how to come out of those boxes and start connecting with new, different people that will actually help us. Is that crazy thinking? What do you guys think?
No, not a bit. I actually think it's it'll be a strength if you develop it, David. Especially like when you say that, think about kind of, splintering off into cliques and things like that. Something that came to me while you were saying it was, one of the most powerful tools you can have when it comes to trying to bridge those type of divides is to learn to ask questions. Learn to ask good questions. It could be that you don't feel necessarily a connection with somebody who's maybe from a different generation, either older or younger. But if you learn to just ask basic questions of them, it can kind of create some level of a common ground. Like, for instance, I mean, it may be somebody, 20, 30 years older. Hey, what kind of music are you into? Something simple like that can open up a door for maybe some dialogue. Either, if it's music that you happen to like, hey, even better. If it's music you've never heard of, maybe you can tell, I might check that out sometime. Just something simple like that can go ahead and start, laying some groundwork to get people to open up to you, and also you to open up to them.
It's good. I would say that, you have to like what David was saying, we've grown up with this paradigm of the tribalism, and there's nothing wrong with that. There is strength in that. There's strength in grouping together with like-minded people, but also there can be strength in diversifying that, right? And what David said in a private conversation earlier is that's the real DEI, not to take away his point. But my point is you have to make a conscious decision to, going back to that understanding, to be understanding and learn a different language. You have to make the conscious decision to do that. In addition to Phil's, I think that asking questions is good, but you have to make the conscious decision to do that. And also, my last point is you have to be patient. It's easy to get frustrated because I'm like, I don't understand you. Oh, or you're not moving fast enough. I'm trying to show you how to use this technology, but you're not going at my pace. Like I can I can do it. So I think those two things are crucial. Make the conscious decision and be very patient.
Yeah, Ryan, and you're right. I did say, I think that when we overcome the differences that exist between us generationally, relationally, perspective-wise, experience-wise, and we just begin to engage with one another, if for no other reason than to learn, I think that's where, there's so much talk about DEI. I don't think DEI is about race. I think it's about engagement and the willingness to engage and to work and go deeper. And the deeper you go, the more well knit together your team becomes, and the more success you guys begin to see as a team. Because remember, that's the ultimate end result here. We're here in an organization to work and bring to bear the goals that are set before us. If we're too busy fighting about things that don't matter and missing the opportunity to really connect and expand and go beyond what we thought we could, man, we've really missed it. I want to encourage you guys to just consider, look around your organization. Are there people that you've missed connecting with? Are there opportunities for you to work with somebody who's maybe more computer savvy than you, or maybe somebody who's had more experience than you have, somebody who's a little older or a little younger than you? I'd like for you to begin to be one of the ones that breaks the chains that keep us in our silos and go out into your work world and begin to connect with other people, if for no other reason again than to simply learn. And by learning, you're going to see that you open yourself up to a whole nother work experience that you didn't know existed. Well, that's it for this episode. We're so glad that you've joined us. Don't forget, Beyond Day One, the course. It's out there for you. You can use the course individually by module, or you can take it holistically as one big course. But the one thing we know is that by taking this course, young professionals, Gen Z, you guys are going to be transformed when you walk into the workplace with confidence, understanding, and the professional skills that are going to cause you to win in your workplace. Until next time, see you later.